The cafe fell silent as my former mother-in-law, Linda, stood beside my table with a smug smile stretched across her face. "Leaving you was the best decision my son ever made," she announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. A few people glanced over awkwardly. I froze with my coffee cup halfway to my lips. It had been 8 months since my divorce from Ethan. 8 long months of rebuilding my life after discovering secrets that had shattered our marriage. I wasn't expecting to see Linda that afternoon. And I definitely wasn't expecting a public attack. She folded her arms proudly. "Honestly, I should thank him. He finally realized what kind of woman you really are." The words stung, not because they were true, but because after everything I'd done for that family, she still blamed me for the divorce. I slowly placed my cup down. "Linda, I don't want any trouble." She laughed. "Oh, now you don't want trouble. That's rich." The customers around us shifted uncomfortably. I wanted to leave, but something told me to stay. Linda leaned closer. "My son is happier than ever. New apartment, new life, new girlfriend." She smiled cruelly. "And unlike you, she's actually successful." I looked at her quietly. The truth was, I had helped Ethan build his business from the ground up. For 7 years, I worked late nights managing paperwork, handling clients, and keeping everything organized. My name wasn't on the company. But without me, it never would have survived. The moment the company became profitable, Ethan changed. He became distant, cold, secretive. Then one day I discovered why. Another woman. 3 months later, our marriage was over. Yet somehow Linda convinced herself I was the villain. She kept talking. "I knew from the beginning you weren't good enough for him." I stood up calmly. "Are you finished?" Her smile widened. "Not even close." Then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Her confidence instantly grew. "Speaking of my successful son." She answered proudly, but within seconds, the color drained from her face. Her smile disappeared. Her eyes widened. "What do you mean frozen?" A long pause. "What account?" Another pause. Suddenly her hands started shaking. For the first time all afternoon, Linda looked terrified. I had no idea what was happening. But whatever she was hearing, everything was about to change. Linda's face turned completely pale. The confidence she'd been wearing all afternoon vanished in seconds. "That's impossible," she whispered into the phone. I watched silently. A moment ago she had been publicly humiliating me. Now she looked like she might collapse. People around us were pretending not to listen, but everyone was watching. "What do you mean the payments were flagged?" Linda asked. Her voice shook. Another pause. Then she grabbed the edge of a chair for support. No, Ethan would never do that." My stomach tightened. The call clearly involved Ethan. Finally, Linda ended the call and stared blankly at the screen. For several seconds she didn't move. Then she looked directly at me. For the first time in years, there wasn't a trace of arrogance in her eyes. Only fear. "What happened?" I asked quietly. She swallowed hard. "Ethan's business accounts have been frozen." I blinked. "What?" She sat down heavily. "The bank is investigating several transactions." My heart skipped. The company. The same company I had spent years helping build. The same company Ethan claimed was thriving after our divorce. Linda rubbed her forehead. "They're saying there are financial irregularities." I remained silent. Something wasn't adding up. Ethan had always been careless with money. But investigations didn't happen, without a reason. Then Linda's phone rang again. This time it was Ethan himself. She answered immediately. "Ethan." His voice was loud enough that even I could hear pieces of it. "Mom, don't panic." That sentence alone told me everything. People only say, "Don't panic," when there's definitely a reason to panic. Linda stood up and walked a few feet away. But I could still hear fragments. "They found the records. Someone reported it. Lawyers are involved. Quote. I can explain." Her face grew paler with every word. When the call ended, she looked 10 years older. "What happened?" I asked. Linda hesitated. Then she shocked me. "He says someone reported financial misconduct." My eyes narrowed. Financial misconduct. The words immediately brought back memories. Months before the divorce, I had noticed strange numbers in company records. Payments that didn't match invoices. Transfers that seemed unusual. Whenever I asked questions, Ethan brushed me off. "It's business stuff," he'd say. "Don't worry about it." At the time, I trusted him. Now I wondered if that had been my biggest mistake. Linda suddenly grabbed my arm. "You didn't report him, did you?" I stared at her. The accusation felt familiar. Whenever something went wrong, somehow it became my fault. "No." She searched my face. And for once, I think she realized I was telling the truth. A third call came in. This time Ethan didn't sound confident. He sounded desperate. Linda answered. What now? Her eyes widened. The phone nearly slipped from her hand. Then she whispered the words that changed everything. They found the hidden account. I froze. Hidden account? Even Linda seemed unaware of it. Suddenly the puzzle pieces began fitting together. The secretive behavior. The strange transactions. The unexplained money movements. Whatever Ethan had been hiding. It was much bigger than anyone imagined. And the investigation had only just begun. Linda lowered herself into the chair again. Her hands were trembling. For years, she had defended Ethan no matter what he did. Now, for the first time, she looked unsure of who her son really was. Hidden account, she whispered to herself. I stayed quiet. There was no point adding fuel to the fire. A few minutes later, Ethan rushed into the cafe. His shirt was wrinkled. His hair was a mess. And the confident businessman everyone admired was nowhere to be seen. The moment he saw me, his expression hardened. You. I frowned. What about me? He pointed a finger. This is your fault. Linda immediately stood up. Ethan, stop. But he wasn't listening. You've been trying to ruin me ever since the divorce. The accusation would have hurt months ago. Now it just sounded pathetic. I folded my arms. If I wanted to ruin you, I wouldn't have spent 7 years helping you build that company. For a moment, he had no answer. Because he knew it was true. Linda looked between us. Tell me the truth, she demanded. What hidden account are they talking about? Ethan looked away. That was all the answer she needed. Her eyes widened. You actually had one. Silence. The cafe suddenly felt very small. Finally, Ethan sighed. It wasn't supposed to become a problem. Linda stared at him in disbelief. What did you do? His shoulders slumped. Over the next few minutes, the truth came out piece by piece. And every piece was worse than the last. Months before our divorce, Ethan had opened a private account without telling anyone. Money from several business contracts had been redirected there. At first, he claimed it was temporary. Then he claimed it was for investments. Then he admitted the real reason. He wanted money that couldn't be traced. Back to the company. Linda covered her mouth. No, but Ethan wasn't finished. The hidden account wasn't the only secret. Some of the money had been spent supporting his new girlfriend long before our marriage ended. Luxury trips, designer gifts, a luxury apartment, everything had been funded using money that should have belonged to the business. I felt sick, not because I was shocked. Because deep down, I had suspected something wasn't right. Linda looked like her entire world was collapsing. You used company money. Ethan couldn't even meet her eyes. That silence was louder than any confession. Then Linda turned toward me. Slowly, painfully, almost as if she couldn't believe what she was realizing. For years she had blamed me. Insulted me, mocked me, treated me like I had destroyed her son's life. Now the truth was standing right in front of her. And it wasn't me. She began. But the words wouldn't come out. A tear rolled down her cheek. For the first time, she looked genuinely ashamed. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. It was a message from an attorney. The same attorney handling the final review of my divorce settlement. My heart skipped as I opened it. The message contained one sentence. We found evidence that some assets were intentionally hidden during the divorce proceedings. I looked up slowly. Ethan's face went white. Because he knew exactly what that meant. The investigation wasn't just about his business anymore. Now it threatened everything he had left. And the consequences were about to become very personal. The moment I finished reading the attorney's message, I looked up at Ethan. His face had gone completely white. He knew exactly what those words meant. The hidden account wasn't the only thing investigators had discovered. There was more, a lot more. Ethan, I said quietly, what assets did you hide during the divorce? The cafe fell silent. Even Linda looked shocked. What assets? She asked. Ethan avoided everyone's eyes. That was answer enough. My phone buzzed again. Another message from my attorney. This one included documents, bank records, property records, investment statements, and there it was. Proof. Months before our divorce, Ethan had transferred money into accounts that were never disclosed during the settlement. There was also a small investment property registered under a business partner's name. But investigators had already linked it back to him. Linda grabbed the chair for support. You lied in court. Ethan said nothing. You lied to the judge. Still nothing. The silence was deafening. For years, Linda had called her son honest, hardworking, and respectable. Now every illusion was crumbling. Then she turned toward me. Tears filled her eyes. I owe you an apology. I was stunned. In all the years I'd known Linda, I had never heard those words from her. Not once. I blamed you for everything, she continued. I told people you ruined my son's life. Her voice broke. But I was wrong. The cafe was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Linda wiped away tears. You stood by him when nobody else did. I remembered the late nights. The sacrifices. The endless support. Everything I had done for Ethan. Everything I had done for his family. And still, they had treated me like the enemy. I should have listened to you, Linda whispered. For a moment, I saw genuine regret. Not excuses. Not denial. Just regret. Then Ethan exploded. Stop acting like she's the victim. People jumped. His voice echoed through the cafe. You don't know what pressure I was under. Linda stared at him. Ethan, enough. No, he shouted. His anger was turning into panic. Because every minute brought new revelations. Every minute brought new consequences. Then his phone rang. Again. This time it was his business partner. Ethan answered. Within seconds, his expression changed. What do you mean they're leaving? A pause. Then another. No. You can't be serious. His hands started shaking. When he ended the call, he looked devastated. His biggest clients had just terminated their contracts. Word of the investigation had started spreading. The company that took years to build was beginning to collapse. One decision after another. One lie after another. Everything was catching up with him. But karma wasn't finished yet. A few moments later, another call came in. This one made Ethan sink into his chair. The luxury apartment, gone. The lease had been cancelled. Several accounts had been restricted pending investigation. His financial world was falling apart. And then came the final blow. The girlfriend he had left me for sent a message. One short message. Don't contact me again. That was it. No loyalty. No support. No goodbye. Just gone. The woman he had sacrificed everything for disappeared the moment things became difficult. Ethan stared at the screen in disbelief. For the first time, he truly looked alone. Linda sat quietly. The son she had defended for years was facing the consequences of his own choices. And there was nothing she could do to stop it. Then my attorney called. I answered. After listening for a few moments, I slowly smiled. The investigation had uncovered enough evidence to reopen parts of the divorce settlement. Meaning some of the assets Ethan had hidden could legally be reconsidered. When I ended the call, Ethan looked terrified. Because he realized something. For months he thought he had won. He thought he had walked away with everything. But now the truth was finally catching up to him. And the biggest surprise was still waiting around the corner.